Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Hi there. Let's get to it. Okay, first of all, let me just kind of quickly review some of the very interesting things that came out of the Vladimir Putin meeting. First of all, just as sort of an overview, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are allies. These two guys are the good guys. If you listen to the likes of Lindsey Graham or Tom Cotton, they would lead you to believe that that's not true. Vladimir Putin is a mass murderer, he's a genocidal maniac, he's kidnapped 19,000 children from Ukraine, and blah, 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 blah. All of that is a lie. None of that is true. Vladimir Putin has been an ally of ours for a long time. He's hated the old deep state for a very long time. And Donald Trump and the good guys got to him and said, "We need your help." And he said, "No problem." And he's been involved in this operation for a very long time. Now again, people would openly say, you need to lay off the Q stuff, you're a crazy person, none of that makes sense. The fact is that we need allies in this world, because this isn't something that we can just do on our own. If everybody went against the United States of America, we would probably lose. We'd die trying, but we would probably lose. We need allies around here, and we have them, which is great. Certainly economic allies also. And that too is one of the things where you can immediately tell when Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton and people of that ilk, who again are Israel shills and completely bought off and sold, and are on film with some kid doing some god-awful thing. The simple fact, again, that we are working together with Russia and have been for quite some time regarding taking down the deep state, again, should prove to people that when senators like Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton take to the television and they start screaming, shouting, or they're reading the exact same script, that those individuals, again, are told what to say. And again, they're told what to say because they're completely blackmailed. But this is an operation. And it is a timed operation, and it is a controlled operation, and there's no doubt about any of that. Here's just another, again, Q proof, so to speak, that proves it. Q post 2396, and anybody can look this up, on November 3rd, of 2018, simply says the following: POTUS meeting Putin on 11.11. Now, what are the odds of that? Q. And the very moment that Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump were standing on that stage at the airport, once they both got off of their planes and they both walk up on stage, it was exactly 11:11 a.m. Anchorage, Alaska time. That's not a coincidence. That is completely planned. And it's also, again, not some negative psyop or anything like that. It's a head nod. It's a hat tip. It's a wink and a nod and all of that stuff to all of us, that they know what's going on, that we know what's going on, and that you have to be able to read between the lines here, but also see these particular things as being coordinated. It's coordinated for a very good reason. Not talking to the media the way that they did when they were done making their speeches. Completely coordinated. 100%. No need to talk to the media. They don't know what's going on anyway. So the more confused that the media is, the better. All that does is wake up the American people, because the American people and people around the world can see what is really going on here. Again, in Anchorage, Alaska, you had all of these white liberals standing on the side of the road, waving Ukrainian flags, God only knows why. Because, of course, they're paid. They're 100% paid off. And as it turns out, this entire little protest was funded by a gal who's directly affiliated with George Soros. Now, I just got on Data Republican's X account here, and they just ended up deleting it for some reason, which is a bit strange. However, again, they have all of these flags and they have all of these signs in a big long banner with a website on it with this fake made-up number. It says, Putin abducted 19,546 Ukrainian kids. Trump can release them. Visit releasethekids.com. And then there's another website which is too small for me to read. But again, all of this is coordinated. None of that's true. Putin didn't abduct any children. He did liberate a great deal of Ukrainians and Ukrainian children from being again sold into sex slavery, being starved to death, a number of other things. Again, Ukraine is one of the largest child trafficking, human trafficking countries that exists in the world. Not to mention all of the bioweapons labs that exist over there. Well, they've been knocked out now, which is a good thing. This is why this is ramping up right now. This is why this is moving so quickly, I think, and moving in a faster direction. You also have this, which is rather interesting, which was this letter that was allegedly signed by and written by Melania Trump, First Lady of the United States, again dated August 15th. Ladies and gentlemen, in my humble opinion, this is a direct comm. This is a direct communication, not really about Vladimir Putin or anything else. But what it's doing is it's satisfying certain war hawks, I should say, and even neocons on the right. And it's giving them, again, more talking points that they can just bring to the mainstream media and make it look like everybody is, wanting Vladimir Putin to essentially end this war, like all of this is about him. It's not about him. And it's not even that he started it. Again, thinking multidimensionally about this is difficult for people, in particular if they don't have all of the evidence, and then they, of course, haven't been following along this entire time. But, as I said earlier, Ukraine has been filled with biological weapons factories for a long time. And the entire scheme, of course, was to create a false flag, a huge false flag, that would have led us into a physical war on a much grander scale. In particular, if Hillary Clinton would have won the election. And that was, of course, to blame Russia for some nuclear attack that they would have said hit Ukraine, which maybe they would have allowed it in the first place. And then before you know it, all of our military would have been over in Ukraine and or surrounding nations. We would have doubled down with NATO and gone after Russia for absolutely no reason whatsoever. That's if people were still dead asleep as to what is really going on in the world. But fortunately, there's enough awake people to fully understand that that's not going to happen. And that entire plan has been thwarted, thank God. And something far more important is actually taking place here, which again is the liberation of Ukrainians under the ruling thumb of the Khazarian Mafia and everybody who lives there. Not to mention, again, historically, Ukraine belongs to Russia. It's just been slowly taken away from Russia over the course of many years, many wars, and a number of other events over the course of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And again, Vladimir Putin is well aware of this, hence the old Tucker interview, where he was giving Tucker Carlson the history lesson. That history lesson is important, and it matters. But here's Melania Trump's letter, again, assuming she wrote it, which, let's face it, she probably didn't. It says, "Dear President Putin, every child shares the same quiet dreams in their heart, whether born randomly into a nation's rustic countryside or a magnificent city center. The dream of love, possibility, and safety from danger. As parents, it is our duty to nurture the next generation's hope. As leaders, the responsibility to sustain our children extends beyond the comfort of a few. Undeniably, we must strive to paint a dignity-filled world for all, so that every soul may wake to peace, and so that the future itself is perfectly guarded. A simple yet profound concept, Mr. Putin, as I am sure you agree, is that each generation's descendants begin their lives with a purity and innocence which stands above geography, government, and ideology." Of course, see, that right there, that paragraph, that one sentence, rather, proves that they're on the same side. Because the Khazarian Mafia, the Jewish lobby, and, again, the government of Ukraine does not believe that sentence. They don't think that there is a simple yet profound concept having to do, again, with a generation's descendants beginning their lives with the purity and innocence which stands above geography, government, and ideology. They don't believe that. It's their way or the highway. She wraps up here and says, "Yet in today's world, some children are forced to carry a quiet laughter, untouched by the darkness around them, a silent defiance against the forces that can potentially claim their future. Mr. Putin, you can single-handedly restore their melodic laughter. In protecting the innocence of these children, you will do more than serve Russia alone. You will serve humanity itself. Such a bold idea transcends all human division, and you, Mr. Putin, are fit to implement this vision with a stroke of the pen today. It is time. Sincerely, Melania Trump, the White House. Again, she ended it with, "It is time," as its own line right above sincerely. It is time. If you look up "It is time" on the Q boards, you get 3 posts. Just get on OperationQ.pub, type in "It is time," and I'm going to read these in chronological order. Here's post 35 on November 1st of 2017. It says POTUS will be very well insulated, protected on Air Force One and abroad. Specific locations classified. While these operations are conducted due to the nature of the entrenchment, it is time to take back our country and make America great again. Let us salute and pray for the brave men and women in uniform who will undertake this assignment to bring forth peace, unity, and return power to the people. It is our hope that this message reaches enough people to make a meaningful impact. We cannot yet telegraph this message through normal methods for reasons I'm sure everyone here can understand. Follow the questions from the previous threads and remain calm. The primary targets are within D.C. and remain at the top on both sides. And on both sides is in parentheses. Both political parties, of course. The spill over in the streets will be quickly shut down. Look for more false flags, stay alert, be vigilant, and above all, please pray. And then, quote, it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Love is patient, love is kind. God bless my fellow Americans, 4/10/20, which is DJT. Again, seems like a relevant post right now, does it not? Here's the next one. Post 2119, September 8th of 2018. It says, there was a time when our children stood at attention, put their hands on their heart, and in one united voice recited the Pledge of Allegiance. There was a time when strength and honor meant something. There was a time when standing for our flag meant something. There was a time when our history, heritage, was taught with pride and respect. There was a time when respect was given to those who served, bled, and died to protect and defend our God-given freedom. There was a time when we were grateful. There was a time when these United States of America, one nation under God, was united. There was a time when these United States of America, one nation under God, was united under one flag. There was a time when we, the people, decided our future. There was a time when we, the people, had a voice. There was a time when we, the people, were united and strong. Quote, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Then it says, it is time. We, the people, reclaim what is rightfully ours. May God bless America and all those who defend and protect her against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We stand together as patriots. Where we go one, we go all. Home of the brave. Q+. Q+ is Donald Trump also. Now here's the last one. This is Q post 2431, November 6th of 2018. There's a picture which is stamped with the file name Together We Fight. It says, it is time to unite and fight for our freedom. Together we are strong, apart we are weak. Patriots have no skin color. Q. It's a long one, but again, it's very similar to the previous one that I read. However, again, toward the bottom, it does say, it is time we the people reclaim what is rightfully ours. It says, will you answer the call? Your country needs you. Your vote matters. We stand together. Quote, be on guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be courageous. Be strong. 1 Corinthians 16:13 Q. Seems relevant. All of it seems relevant with what is going on right now. What's going on in D.C., what's going on nationwide, what's going on globally, the Melania Trump letter, meeting with Vladimir Putin. Now here on Monday, coming up, we've got Zelensky showing up to the White House, apparently. I'm still going to throw out that little theory, as odd as it might be, that Zelensky could have been a honeypot. He is an actor, after all. And I'm not saying he's a good person. He probably isn't. But if he was a honeypot, he's got endless U.S. politicians blackmailed, and completely owned, which means so do we, so do the good guys. My point is there are too many coincidences here. There are too many things happening in such a coordinated manner that it can't be more obvious that there is an operation taking place. Again, you're seeing people on the left and the right scream and shout and lose their minds because they don't know what else to do. They've all been caught. So screaming and shouting and running to the television and whining and doing all of the things that they typically do, that's their only response. They are not in control here. Not under any stretch of the imagination. Now, there's also this. Again, not only is Washington, D.C. being cleaned up, and endless people are making videos about how it's being cleaned up and openly testifying that they've noticed immediately that there's a crime rate drop, that the homeless situation is working itself out and getting fixed, the homeless encampments are being removed, and a number of other things. But there's this from the Gateway Pundit, and it was titled, "Trump Streamlines Gun Registration and Concealed Permit Process in D.C., Slashes Wait Time from Months to Days Amid Crime Crackdown." It says, according to a new report, the process to obtain a concealed carry permit and register firearms has been streamlined. The time required for both processes has shrunk from months to mere days. Again, this was from Fox. It says, the concealed carry permit process and firearms registration process in the Deep Blue City have been slashed from months down to days via Trump's Making D.C. Safe and Beautiful task force, which was established via an executive order in March to revitalize the nation's capital. The working group's work to clean up the city did not include changing local gun laws, but instead streamlines the city's already established process so law-abiding residents can more easily navigate the firearm system. It says, quote, President Trump is not only stopping violent crime in Washington, D.C., he is also streamlining and the permitting process for law-abiding residents who want the ability to protect themselves and their families. White House spokeswoman Taylor Rogers told Fox News Digital, quote, the Making D.C. Safe and Beautiful task force has been working with local officials to eliminate long-standing obstacles in successfully reduced the average permit processing time from several months to just 5 days. Under the task force efforts, locals are able to book next-day appointments to register their firearms with the Metropolitan Police Department, while walk-in appointments are now available and advertised on the police department's website. Previous applicants typically waited 4 months for a firearm registration appointment, a White House official told Fox Digital. As the Gateway Pundit reported, President Trump announced on Monday that he is taking federal control over Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department and authorizing the use of National Guard troops to solve the public safety emergency in the nation's capital. If you can't carry a gun in the nation's capital, then there's a serious problem there. Again, anybody should be able to carry a gun who is an American in the nation's capital. That would make the nation's capital a far more safe place to live. Of course, the liberals don't know that because they don't own guns. They've never touched a gun. They can't spell gun. And as a result of all of that, they actually are dumb enough to believe that if guns just didn't exist, then everybody would be safe. Well, that's the oldest trick in the book. Just ask Australia. Just ask the UK. Just ask any country that has outlawed guns and gun ownership. Again, back during the Second Amendment rallies that were taking place in Washington, and I think it was either when Donald Trump was leaving office or had just left office or was still in office maybe the first time around, there was a massive Second Amendment rally that was going on there, which was fantastic. Again, people had their rifles slung around their shoulders, they had sidearms, the whole thing. Again, they were outnumbering anybody who would have even attempted to stop them. And it was a giant peaceful protest, and it was a march, and everybody was 100% fine. There were no problems, a lot of live streamers, no issues whatsoever. But again, gun ownership and the Second Amendment exist to, of course, protect yourself, but also protect yourself against a tyrannical government. And streamlining any gun laws and any gun ownership in the hands of lawful citizens is a very good idea. And again, starting with Washington, D.C. here with this entire operation that we are now seeing, which is another phase of this operation, is on purpose. This is all planned. And we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and there can be global events happening at the exact same time, and a number of other things. But again, just in conclusion, sort of wrapping all of that together, I think it's going to be really interesting regarding the Zelensky meeting on Monday and what's going to happen, because there are senators and representatives on both sides who do not want the war to end. Lindsey Graham is one of them. Richard Blumenthal, same thing on the other side. I mean, there are endless senators and representatives who have been traitors and have aligned themselves with Zelensky against Vladimir Putin. And the simple fact, again, that those politicians in the United States have all taken one side, which is the warmongering side, while lying about Vladimir Putin and everything else, that should tell you exactly who they are. And it's in moments like this, too, where Fox News is absolutely no different than CNN. And I think everybody is seeing that also. Again, like I said, Lindsey Graham was on Maria Bartiromo's show on Sunday. If you want to see a ridiculous interview, go and listen to that one. Lindsey Graham is on a loop. He sounds like a broken record. I mean, he's saying the exact same thing over and over and over again. And he sounds again like he's reading a script or he's memorized a script. He's the worst of the worst. Again, he was side by side with John McCain in Ukraine many, many years ago. Birds of a feather flock together, after all, as the saying goes. Okay, let me mention this. This was a bit odd. People were making plenty of comments about this. In fact, Ryan Matta over there on X, he's made some excellent documentaries, but for some reason, instead of finding the direct link in the actual article itself, he decided to repost an X post from Sean King. Now, if you're not familiar with who Sean King is the white guy who pretended to be black. And he's basically completely mentally ill. He was raised white because he is white, but he pretends that he's black, and he's not. So why Ryan Matta would repost a post from Sean King is beyond me. And I made a comment about that, and people jumped all over me like, what do you think, the story's not real? And I was like, no, I think the story here is real. I just think that you should find the direct source instead of reposting Sean King, who's completely irrelevant. Point is, believe it or not, this is also in the Jerusalem Post, and this was from August 16th, and it was titled, Israeli Cyber Directorate Employee Arrested in the United States on Suspicion of Pedophilia. Alexandrovich worked in cyber threat intelligence and active defense, took part in shaping Israel's cyber policy and in international forums, and advised various government bodies. He looks like a gay. It goes on here. It says, in large-scale operation targeting suspects in the online sexual exploitation of minors, 8 people were arrested, including this very individual who goes by Tom Artyom Alexandrovich, 38 years old, an employee of the Israel National Cyber Directorate, Las Vegas police said Friday. It went on here. It said all detainees are charged with attempting to entice minors online to commit sexual acts. The directorate confirmed the arrest and said the employee has gone on leave until the findings are clarified. A senior official at the Cyber Directorate in the Prime Minister's office was arrested on suspicion of links to pedophilia, a joint operation by Las Vegas police and the FBI over the past 2 weeks led to the arrest of 8 suspects, including Alexandrovich, 38, from Israel. After questioning, Alexandrovich returned to Israel and was placed on leave from the Directorate. Las Vegas police said the suspects were investigated on suspicion of luring a minor by computer for sexual relations. Those arrested included men aged 23 to 49. It appears that these individuals are of many different racial backgrounds. It says police said that the goal was to identify individuals who pose a danger to minors online and prevent them from contacting children and teenagers. Again, the rub in all of this was, why was he allowed to go back to Israel? Why was he let go? And again, in stereotypical fashion, people immediately jumped on, well, we are an Israeli-owned country. This is the Jewish lobby. This is what they do. They protect their own at our expense and the expense of children and everybody else. And it's favoritism. And that's exactly why this individual was allowed to go back to Israel. Again, that's possible. I mean, I don't know what's really going on. I don't like it any more than anybody else. You would think that if someone were wrapped up in something like this, in particular, if they came from a foreign country, then they would be detained and they would not be allowed to leave. But again, they were allowed to leave, probably again because of their affiliation with Israel. It certainly looks like that at face value. But whether or not this individual makes their way back to the United States is another matter. And again, who's to say? What I do know is that Las Vegas is also a shithole, and that endless people are leaving Las Vegas, and I've read numerous accounts online of what's going on in Las Vegas, and the fact is, in particular in recent days, and they openly state that the entire city is basically shut down totally, that the restaurants are empty, the employees just kind of stand around and they don't care. There are less and less employees, a lot of foreign-born employees. No one's on the streets, certainly around midday, even in the evenings. Particular events aren't packed. It's a ghost town. And it's a ghost town, of course, for a variety of reasons. People are saving their money, they're not taking vacations, and it's Sin City, and people aren't interested in it anymore. I've never been to Las Vegas, have no interest in it, but yeah, this Israeli shouldn't have been let go. That's my opinion. But then again, there could be more to this than what meets the eye. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. But again, a lot of people were screaming and yelling about that. And I understand why. It makes sense because it's unfair. And it looks unfair at face value. Okay, education stuff. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt that the United States Department of Education and the DOJ are cracking down on school districts nationwide. And it really doesn't take much to get the U.S. Department of Education's attention. And it doesn't take much for, of course, them to send a nicely worded legal letter to these school districts in an effort to get them to comply. We know that the schools, of course, in the Virginia general area and those Virginia counties are not complying when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. However, many other school districts are getting caught with their pants down, so to speak, metaphorically. And as it turns out, they too are being warned legally before they lose federal funding. This was from Kansas City, KSHB.com, sent my way by Dr. Luther Smith. This was titled, U.S. Department of Education Opens Investigation of Oath Shawnee Mission KCK School Districts. Kansas City, Missouri, it says the U.S. Department of Education has launched an investigation into 3 Kansas City area school districts after receiving a complaint from the Defense of Freedom Institute. That's a nice place to reach out to if you're interested in pinching your local school district. The Defense of Freedom Institute. It says the U.S. DOE's Office for Civil Rights and Student Privacy Policy Office announced Thursday that they had initiated investigations of the Shawnee Mission Oath, I think, or OLATH, and Kansas City, Kansas public school districts in the Kansas City area. The Topeka Public School District was also named in the investigation. Now, what did this have to do with? It says, quote, as a district, it's always our practice to work directly and partner with families and students as situations arise to ensure we are providing the appropriate and necessary support. It says the district said on Thursday, to be absolutely clear, is our expectation that staff work directly with families regarding student-related matters involving their own children. It says there have been no specific situations identified in the OLATH or Oath public schools related to the allegations outlined in the investigation letter. And that specifically has to do with what Attorney General Chris Kobach here from Kansas has alleged, which is that bathroom usage essentially should be only determined by gender identity. And that if you want to socially transition as a minor, that the school district needs to keep that from parents. Again, this kind of stuff is insane, and it's been going on for far too long. It's a mental illness. It's that simple. There's no way around it. I don't know what else to say, but fortunately, again, Title IX cuts right through this, which is good. There are also FERPA violations, which have been alleged as well, which is rather common among school districts. But at the very least, these districts have been put on blast and put on blast publicly, which is a good thing because they hate negative publicity. They can't stand it. And again, fortunately, the laws are changing around the United States regarding a lot of this business of what parents have access to and what they don't. And this leads me into a subject here again, back into the business of libraries. I have two stories here, one with an audio clip, but first I want to read this very short little article. This is from a website I came across the other day, and it's Literary Hub, or lithub.com. And this specifically, again, targets New Hampshire and a New Hampshire law that essentially lays out the fact that parents get to see what kinds of books that their children have access to, and that they, again, get to see a printout of the books that their children are renting out, essentially. Specifically, again, from libraries, and even school libraries, but public libraries also. In fact, all libraries. So here's what it was titled. And again, you're going to be able to figure out exactly what kind of a lean this particular author has when it comes to this article. Because this right here should show everybody that when you expose these kinds of perverse books that exist within these libraries, and then individuals who do not support a law that give parents the right to see what kinds of books these children are looking at and or checking out, that all of the people surrounding these libraries and those kinds of perverse books and those children have very nefarious motives, most of which has to do with, of course, sexual grooming. It's that simple. This is not a complicated subject. But the simple fact, again, that these people write these articles not supporting laws that protect children and parents should show everybody that these people are sexual groomers. Here's what it says, quote, it was titled, New Hampshire will soon allow parents to see their children's library checkouts. That's not a bad thing, but the author disagrees. A James Folta, if that's his real name, he says the following here, quote, a Granite State's minors' library browsing records used to be confidential, even to parents, but a recent New Hampshire state law has upended that privacy. Governor Kelly Ayotte, a Republican, signed House Bill 273 on August 1st, which opens a kid's library records to a parent or legal guardian. It's a pretty brief bill. Good. It says the following here, quote, all library records related to a minor's current borrowing of printed library materials and audiovisual materials such as DVDs and CDs shall be made available to either parent or the legal guardian of the minor when requested by either parent or the legal guardian of the minor, or the parent or legal guardian of the minor whose address matches that on the library account or who is listed on the library account. The article goes on, it says the law will take effect next year. Critics are concerned that it's not only a breach of privacy, but that the law is written too broadly without a good enough system to verify that someone is actually a parent. That's exactly what a sexually grooming leftist would say. The article goes on, it says, in the past, New Hampshire's governor has been remarkably sensible for a Republican who endorsed Trump as recently as 2024. This new law comes right after she vetoed a number of far-right efforts, including a book banning bill, an anti-trans bathroom bill, an anti-vaccination bill, and an anti-abortion sex education bill. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that Kelly Ayotte is left of center, but with an R next to her name. Anyway, it goes on, it says, let's see here. Is this new law another moderating move by Ayotte? It's unclear to me how this new parental access will shake out. Hopefully kids' transparent borrowing histories won't be much use to the GOP and their homophobes and transphobes, but granting them even a grasping theoretical win feels bad. I was surprised to find out that the parents couldn't already access their kids' records. It seems like it would be an existing parental prerogative, which is to say, in the abstract, letting parents see what their kids are checking out of the library doesn't seem obviously unreasonable to me, and crucially, this is only about records of what is checked out, so kids still have the privacy to look at books in the library. Again, that's what a sexual groomer would advocate for. It says, but right now it's hard to feel comfortable with any laws that take away privacy and gives more parents control, especially in libraries. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about legal adults checking out books here. We're talking about minors. And see, therein lies the problem. When sexual groomers and those on the left are advocating for minors to have privacy, no, minors shouldn't have privacy. Minors should be monitored. They should be guided by their parents. They shouldn't have privacy. That whole argument, again, is a sexual grooming technique by the left in the interest of getting the child to distance themselves from their parents by tricking the child into believing that they have privacy rights. In particular, when it comes to, again, exploring themselves or being sexually groomed by somebody else. That, yeah, we're sexually grooming you. You don't know what it is because you're too young to understand. But while we're doing that, you shouldn't have to tell your parents what we're doing. Because if your parents find out what we're doing and we're sexually grooming you, well, they're probably not going to like that. Again, just look at the wordplay that they use. It's so disgusting. Not to mention, this person can't write. This article is loaded with incomplete sentences. Case in point, the next sentence, this new law reminds of the SCOTUS decision, you mean reminds me? Against nationwide injunctions, which was perhaps the right decision in the bloodless abstract, they said, these injunctions have been used by the court, shopping right to harass progressive efforts like the implementation of Obamacare and student loan relief, but the removal of this tool now only going to supercharge an aggressive, fascistic American right. That entire sentence, it's one whole sentence, and it's completely grammatically incorrect. I don't even want to go on. Well, I will. Here's their last paragraph. This, again, should show everybody that this James Folta individual not only can't write, but he's beyond illiterate. He said, quote, I'm not saying 6-year-olds should be allowed to drive SUVs. No one should be allowed to drive SUVs. But kids should be afforded the trust and autonomy to read what they want in a public library, unquote. Disgusting. Again, driving the wedge between parents and children and having government and those, of course, on the communistic, sexually perverse left trying to get children closer to them and further away from their parents is their goal. This is exactly why HB 8 in Ohio passed and is now law. It's the parental rights bill, essentially. Again, it's designed to have parents have total control over, again, their knowledge of what is going on within the school of their child. Because it's always supposed to be that way. Only a school, again, that is attempting to hide something would actually keep parents out of the classroom and keep them from knowing what their teachers, what their child's teachers are actually teaching them. Not to mention any other activity that the school is engaging in from an administrative standpoint. Well, we had an assembly today and a gay guy showed up and he started dancing around shaking his ass and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, everybody saw that, but that was an administrative decision and we didn't feel like we needed to tell everybody at home and it wasn't their business, because students are allowed privacy also. Those things have been going on, again, for quite some time, certainly within the last 10 plus years. And it's absurd. But this is exactly what happens. Those individuals do that. The lawsuits start to rain down. The school districts don't know why. They scream discrimination and you're a homophobe and all these other made-up nonsense words that they don't even know the definitions to, let alone the origins of. And then before you know it, state law gets a hold of it and says, you know what? No more. We're done playing games. No more gay time for everybody. It's all over with now. Back to school. And then everybody again goes back to the way that it used to be. But no one even pauses. I mean, these people who work in these buildings, they don't even pause for a minute and say, you know what? It didn't used to be like this. Maybe we are creating problems. Maybe we are the problem. But these library fights and these library book fights are only going to increase. And again, it seems to be moving in a better direction, which is a good thing. Again, get the pornography out of libraries. It's not difficult. Find the books, burn them, and get rid of them. Here's another story from Ohio. Again, same wavelength of thought here. This was tossed to me by a listener of the show. They know who they are. Thank you. This was fox8.com/news/Ohio High School. Ohio High School library closed to review materials. This is Bellbrook, Ohio. It says students and parents in Southwest Ohio were shocked to learn that the library at Bellbrook High School was closed on the first day of school. It goes on here before I play some audio. It says it's the result of a new policy enacted back in April regulating books containing sexual content and gender ideology. The policy stemmed from a new state law in which Bellbrook Sugar Creek schools interpreted the definitions of those terms. Parents are now required to sign a waiver to permit their kids to read any content involving sexuality and gender ideology. Here's a 2-minute news audio clip regarding this in 3, 2, 1.
That's first tonight here at 10 o'clock. Bellbrook Sugar Creek residents were shocked today to learn from their kids that the library at Bellbrook High School has been closed on the first day of school as a result of a new policy enacted back in April. 2 News reporter Evan Bales is in Bellbrook getting answers about why this happened.
Jack, Bellbrook Sugar Creek schools heard from multiple residents Thursday about that new rule regulating sexual content and gender ideology in books. School board members also tried to clear up some misconceptions, but some parents still think the policy needs more time.
Library needs to be open tomorrow.
After a new Ohio law was passed back in April, Bellbrook Sugar Creek schools enacted a new policy where they interpreted the definitions of those terms and also required parents to sign a waiver to permit their kids to read that content.
If something is inherently private, it would be if you did it on a park bench, would an officer arrest you for it?
But parents soon found the library was closed altogether, with the district superintendent saying they needed time to
reviewing the materials in the high school library and trying to see which books are complying with it.
Parents I spoke with said they weren't pleased with the direction the school board had taken, several saying the policy was too broad and that they can sort books and keep the library open.
I'm, of course, very disappointed. I think libraries and access to information are pivotal. We can come together on middle ground in some of these places, and the middle ground here is don't close the library.
A staff member I spoke to off camera also confirmed that some English teachers are removing classroom libraries to avoid controversy altogether.
If you feel that teachers removing their classroom libraries is making you look bad, or that the library at the school makes you look bad, it really isn't. It's your own actions and your policy that is making you look bad.
It's not clear when the library is going to open back up. The district superintendent says that it could be days or weeks before it's open again. Reporting in Bellbrook, Evan Bales, 2 News.
Did you hear those parents and school employees whining? It has nothing to do with the library. It has to do with what's in the library. This is, again, how absent-minded and foolish these people are. I don't know why you just don't keep the library open. Just keep it open. There's no reason why you have to shut it down. Just keep it open. It's not about the library. It's about the pornography and cartoon-related pornography in the library. It's about what the teachers are allowing within their classroom and how they don't want to legally get wrapped up in something that they're going to lose. From a legal standpoint, and they will lose. So will the school district. The next thing that will happen is they will lose federal funding. I'm telling you what. The Department of Education, the DOJ, and the Office of Civil Rights are working overtime right now. They're pumping out legal letters to the smallest school districts on the face of the planet that they need to rework all of their language, get all the crap out of their schools, or else. The local school district in the town where I live is going to be next. Mark my words. Doesn't take a lot of effort. Doesn't even take a lot of evidence to prove to the DOJ, the Office of Civil Rights, Federal Department of Education, what's going on within these schools. All you have to do is take a couple of screenshots of some of their board meetings and their presentations, look at the word usage that they use, and then look at, again, exactly what's existing within their school districts. Run through a library and take photographs of the perverse books that exist within their school, and then, again, compile all of this together in one giant PDF showing all of the evidence, and then send it off to the Office of Civil Rights. They're violating Title IX. Here are their policies. Here are their procedures. Here's what they're doing. Now send them a legal warning and say comply or else. And then they'll lose federal funding if they don't comply. And they can't afford it, which is the best part. So they think that just by rewording a few things, they're going to get away with it. They won't. Now, let me mention this just sort of in conclusion from the education portion of this show. I came across this little clip on YouTube, probably, of course, because I look up education-related things, and there it was. As it turns out, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his wife, Amy Earnhardt, have a podcast. Now, I don't watch the podcast. I don't listen to it. I was a Dale Earnhardt Jr. fan a long time ago. I watched his dad race a very long time ago. I was a NASCAR fan back in the day, and I watched his dad die during the Daytona 500 and the whole thing, and there you go. Again, I was a fan of theirs, enjoyed watching them race and rooted for them and whatever else, back when I watched sports, which again was a very, very long time ago. I came across this clip, though, and it's a quick little back and forth between the two of them, and they're discussing sending their first child off to school for the first time and what that is like and all of the unnatural feelings associated with it. I'm going to play the clip and then just make a little commentary afterwards. Again, I wouldn't normally do something like this. At least I don't enjoy doing things like this necessarily, but I'm honing in on the behavior because I want to show people again that endless people live in the matrix, including those who are very financially well off. Because there's absolutely no reason, regardless of the school, why the Earnhardt family should be sending their two daughters, or daughter thus far, to any kind of a school whatsoever. They have the time. They could homeschool. They could even hire somebody to show up in their home and teach them within their home, but they're concerned that they apparently want them to have a school-like relationship, or, I don't know, they want to have them ride the bus and know what that's like, and 1,000 other things. And in this day and age, it just baffles my mind because there are people who would kill to be in their situation financially so that they wouldn't have to send their children to a school or ride a bus to a school where you're not in control. So again, give them a listen here and pay attention to all of the unnatural and uncalming and unnerving feelings that they had, certainly the mother had, Amy Earnhardt, when sending their kids off to school for the first time.
The next question is from Jordan. My kids are going back to school for going to school for the first time. It's back to school time. How can I prepare for that moment, watching them get on the bus and drive away?
Ooh, that is always scary and unnerving, watching your child go to school for the first time. Dale and I we didn't have to use the bus. And so when we dropped Isla off for preschool the very first time, it was during COVID and everybody had masks on. And like they literally came to the car and took her out of the car seat. I think everyone was traumatized. Dale and I sat in the parking lot and cried. Do you remember that? He didn't want to leave her. I'm like, she's got to go at some point, because we delayed her going anyway, because I was pregnant with Nicole. So she went in January. It wasn't even like this time of year.
Oh, wow.
But it was traumatic.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters what the scenario is. You are always like a little unnerved by that. But, they're usually pretty okay. And they're more resilient. Like they're going to get to school and have a great time. Yeah. And you're the only one that's really sad. But yeah. It's fine.
The one thing that I've learned is they will get out of the car or get on the bus, and they may be like melting down.
Yeah.
Melting down. And you're thinking in your eyes, you're thinking, this is how they're going to be all day. And this is just this is the emotion they'll feel till they get back. Not true.
The day is ruined.
Dude, and they're going to hop on that bus, or they're going to get out of the car and go into that classroom. And in 5 minutes, they are like,
totally
they
fine.
have forgotten it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even, they're on to another thing. And you're all that's a distant memory. But you're still sitting in the car going, are they going to be okay?
Yeah. Half the time they're feeding off of your energy, and that's why they get emotional to begin with,
That's why. So Amy would take Isla, and Isla would always take it, manipulate Amy and get emotional.
She still does it. I can't do school drop off line.
Amy has a hard time, like.
Well, I'm not
diffusing.
soft. I'm like, get out of the car. We're not doing this. It's embarrassing. Or holding the whole line up. Get out of the car. And that would make her melt down more. And for some reason, she just hops right out of Dale's truck.
Well, so that's the ride in. You have to play the right music. You have to ask the right questions. And if you I can look in the mirror and see Isla's eyes and tell if she's starting to get sad or get nervous or get anxious or worried. And you got to start popping questions or, hey, if you turn on some music, she's going to love, start singing just to change her thought.
Dale's MO too is to get her excited about something that's going to happen after school or the next day or this weekend. Look forward to something else.
True.
To just distract her from her mind because she'll kind of spiral downward and it's hard to get her out. And I'm not good at that.
That's the way I operate in my mind is if I have something I'm nervous about or dreading or not looking forward to, I look at the thing past it. I look at the thing in front, beyond it that I am excited about and go, well, I can go through this.
That's happening next.
I can do this because this thing's out there in front of me.
Okay, I'm going to start here and kind of make this brief because I think people already know where I'm going to take this. But when you ignore your own instincts and when you encourage your children to ignore their own instincts, and you both have the same instincts for the same event or the same day or the same whatever it is, some particular ritual, which is what the first day of school is. It's a ritual, and it's not a healthy one by any stretch of the imagination, in my opinion. Then that right there again is separating yourself from God, and it's also separating yourself from the thing again that makes you His creation. That's my opinion, and people can disagree. But when you fight off that instinct of not wanting to be separated from your parents, and the parents themselves not wanting to be separated from the child, in my opinion, that's a serious problem. Because it wasn't just the child who was upset, it was the parents. They too openly admitted that they were sobbing in the car. Well, why? Why wouldn't you just want to avoid that entire situation? Why feel the need to send your children to school? You're multimillionaires. You can do whatever you want. Like I said, they could hire somebody to come to their home to provide their children with formal instruction if they, as parents, think that they are not qualified to do so, which again, as you've heard me bring up on the show, if a parent doesn't think that they're qualified to provide instruction, why did you become a parent? That's the number one job of a parent, is to provide instruction. But I played the clip because it just shows you that it doesn't matter the amount of money that a person has, or how well known they are or not, or where they live, or what their situation is. Brainwashed is brainwashed any way you slice it. And generational brainwashing is really the problem here. That breaking free from that generational brainwashing is paramount. It has to happen. But it's not happening clearly in their family. They're interested in, again, just doing the same things that they did as kids when they were younger, now as adults with their own children, one generation after the next. All having the same emotional reactions that are unnerving and unhealthy, avoiding all of those behaviors and the real reason as to why they're all upset about dropping their child off on the first day of school and the days even after that. And then, of course, the child themselves having a negative emotional reaction to what's going on. And then, of course, breaking through it eventually to the point where they're like, yep, okay, whatever, it's the first day of school, bye, mom and dad, and then everything is so-called normal because they've just broken through this, what they deem to be an emotional barrier. See, I don't view it like that. I don't think that not wanting to go to school is an emotional barrier that needs to be hurdled or broken through or whatever else. I think it's a natural reaction to an unnatural environment. And that's how I've always viewed it, and I still view it that way today. I viewed it that way when I was a kid, because I had a very similar reaction when I was a kid too. And I have the same, again, I have a very similar, I mean, I'm sobbing or anything, but I have a more controlled anger reaction sometimes when I drive past schools because I know what goes on inside of them. And again, no offense to the Earnhardts. I'm sure they're nice people. I'm sure they're very generous. I have no reason to believe otherwise necessarily. It's just their naivete is on display. And they also, again, don't have the, whatever you would call it, observational sense to recognize and to know the lives of endless other parents who would quite literally kill to be in their financial position so that they would not have to send their children to a public school or a private school or a charter school or whatever kind of school they're sending their kids to. They would very much love to have that kind of money to be able to stay home and instruct their own children, whether they be a married couple, a single parent, whoever it is. I know these people. They exist. But the Earnhardts don't know that. They, again, are insulated, so they think. But it is ritualistic trauma. The whole first day of school thing as a cultural phenomenon that is, again, a series of days on a calendar every single year. Back to school, back to school. What was the Cheerios commercial again? Oh, God. See, even that is ritualistic trauma. Back to life, back to reality. That's what it says in the commercial. Back to life, back to reality. That's not true. None of that is true. Get the giant list of school supplies that your family has to buy for you at Walmart. Go to Walmart, get all of it, pack your backpack filled with it. Check off every teeny little thing on your list so that when you go to school, you get a sticker because you brought every single object that you need for school into school on the first day or second day or whatever. Go home on the first day of school with all the papers that your parents have to sign and read that they never read and hardly ever sign, and when they do, they just give them right back to the student to send right back to the school, not knowing that they're signing away consent and 1,000 other things for their child to be digitally monitored and fingerprinted and the whole thing, creating a digital twin for their child. I mean, again, people are completely unaware of this, that as a cultural phenomenon, it does not have to exist, and that it doesn't exist with many families across the United States. They do not participate in any of it, and they are happier and healthier for it. So again, it just proves again that the Matrix has a great deal of people. It's got them by the throat. And that life is not about repeating what you did when you were a child with your children. And it's not about giving them objects and things that you didn't have when you were a child. It's about teaching them what you didn't know when you were younger. And if those patterns aren't broken, then again, it's repeating a pattern of abuse, because that's really what it is. Because abuse has an emotional reaction to it. And it's usually not a positive reaction. It's a, I don't want to be away from you. I'm going to start crying. This is upsetting to me. Those are all of the, again, negative emotions associated with abuse. But when culture and society has an overwhelming ability to manipulate human beings and multimillionaires and families with young children into throwing them into a government-related system, then they haven't learned anything. So that's my 2 cents. It's my opinion. But I just don't like, I mean, I understand people would say, well, Sean, you don't have kids. You don't have a right to say anything. I have a right to say whatever I want. But at the same time, I mean, that coin could be flipped and somebody could say, well, the Earnhardts don't have the right to tell other people what they should be doing with their children that makes it easier for them to tolerate a ritualistic, traumatic experience of the first day of school year after year after year. I mean, what they claim works, quote unquote, might not work really. It might just teach your child to I don't know, normalize or tolerate a traumatic event. And I just don't think that that's healthy. Because let's face it, school environments are not healthy. And if we're normalizing children into those environments being healthy environments, then we're lying to them. And that's not good. Or at the very least, we're misleading them because we don't know how bad they are. Which begs the question again, what's worse, being lied to or being misled? If you're being lied to and you don't know it, well, then the other person is directly profiting from lying to you. But if you're being misled, then everybody doesn't know what the truth is, which means it's more of a softer delivery and even a softer blow. And then before you know it, it just gets repeated over and over, generation and generation, again and again and again. So again, that's just my 2 cents, but I don't know. It's just not how I would do it. But there are a lot of people, again, who still do it. And like I said, and I think it's kind of the more important part, is that it just proves that the matrix is very real. Even among those who, again, are financially well off and those who are well known in the limelight, so to speak, that just because that's the case doesn't mean that they have it figured out. The simple fact, again, too, that that particular story and stories like it are very similar, and they happen year after year after year among endless families across America, again, should prove to people that your instincts matter, and that maybe if people sat around and problem solved why they're feeling the way that they're feeling around particular events, that maybe they don't need to be participating in said events. Again, that's just my 2 cents. Okay. Jab-related wireless body area network stuff. I've got about 4 stories here and a piece of audio. This was from One America News on August 14th, and it was titled, Apple to Bring Blood Oxygen Feature to Some U.S. Watches with Software Update. For the love of God. What is happening? It says Apple will bring a blood oxygen measure feature to some of its watches via a software update, receiving approval from the U.S. government amid a protracted legal dispute over the technology. It said on last Thursday, the move will allow users of Apple Watch Series 9, Series 10, and Apple Watch Ultra 2 in the United States to view their blood oxygen levels on a paired iPhone. What could possibly go wrong? The wireless body area network right here at face value. It comes after years of legal wrangling with Irvine, California-based Masimo, which has accused Apple of hiring its employees and stealing its pulse oximetry technology after discussing a potential collaboration. See, they're only interested in money, not the health or well-being of the individual because of the wireless body radiation that's taking place from their connected wireless phone in their pocket or in their purse that's directly attached wirelessly to the watch that they're wearing around their wrist. Of course, that's going to impact your blood oxygen levels. You're radiating yourself. I mean, it's obvious. Isn't this obvious at this point? Again, the companies are just interested in money, and if you get sick, well, then you're off to the doctor, and then they make money too. It's amazing. There was this also, this is from Just the News, COVID boosters increase influenza-like illness risk. Swiss study finds as feds cling to mRNA. It says HHS reinstates vaccine safety task force apparently in response to looming lawsuit deadline by group Secretary Kennedy founded. NIH director says mRNA is promising technology, quote unquote, denies mRNA vaccines cause mass harm. Oh, they most certainly do. And yes, it's not flu-like symptoms because the flu doesn't exist. It's compromised immune systems, lowered oxygen levels, deoxygenated cells in the body that the body can't get rid of, and then you feel ill. Because that's what this is all about. There's also this regarding animals. Of course, we've brought up pets on the show numerous times before, specifically regarding injection and the poisons and the ubiquity of the poisons from the human pharmaceutical industry, of course, to the animal and pet pharmaceutical industry, which are one and the same. They are no different. This is from Valerie Ann Smith, and this was tossed to me again by a listener of the show. They know who they are. Thank you. It says the USDA has approved self-amplifying mRNA injections for dogs and cats with zero long-term testing and no public warning. No Bivac, NXT rabies, flu, and leukemia vaccines. You've got to be kidding. It says turbo-replicating virus cells harming pets and shedding onto humans. It says Merck Intervet safety studied only 14 days long. It says Merck has launched a new rabies vaccine called Nobivac, NXT, now rolling out across North America. It uses self-amplifying RNA, saRNA technology similar to what we saw with the COVID vaccines, but now in our animals. This lab-created RNA replicates inside the body. Once injected, it produces rabies virus proteins that trigger the immune system, and the RNA spreads throughout the body, including vital organs and the brain. This will kill animals, ladies and gentlemen. It will make them sick and kill them. And then they will shed on one another. Which means if you have multiple pets in your home and one of the pets gets jabbed with this deadly poison, well, the other ones are going to be shed on and they're going to feel ill also. And the people who send their dogs to doggy daycare and they bring their dog home and wonder why their dog is sick, it's not because they were sniffing butts. It's because they're next to dogs and other animals that have been jabbed. It says the long-term effects, ? Completely unknown. Side effects, aggression, excessive salivation, seizures, death, paralysis, vertigo. No independent long-term safety studies, no transparency, research conducted by Merck's own Intervet, not peer-reviewed or publicly available. 38 dogs and cats were used for experimental study, and 35 were euthanized at the end of the study period. It goes on, it says, we've seen what can go wrong with fast-tracked RNA technology in humans. Now it's being pushed onto pets. Now, I would go so far as to say it's probably already been in pets, certainly within recent years. I mean, hell, they were even giving COVID shots to zoo animals, and the zoo animals died. This goes on, it says, why the rush? Rabies isn't a widespread crisis in the West. Canine rabies has been effectively eliminated since 2007. Less than 10 human rabies cases annually in the United States. Let's not gamble with our pets' health. And then summary, until we have real independent long-term safety data, this RNA vaccine should not be blindly accepted. Let's protect our animals with informed decisions. Watch out for Nobivac, NXT mRNA self-amplifying vaccines in widespread circulation. Canine flu, number H3N2 vaccine, the Nobivac NXT feline FELVE leukemia vaccine, and the Nobivac NXT rabies vaccine. This is just the beginning. They're quietly rolling out mRNA technology into animal vaccines, food supply, cosmetic and skincare, supplements, dental products like floss and toothpaste, and we must say no now. And then it has, again, links below regarding all of that. I put that up on my social media pages if you're interested in taking a look. People have got to protect themselves from this kind of stuff. They have to make these general connections. Again, I was given very good advice regarding my current dog when it came to all of this. A dog's nose to the ground is the best immune support that they can possibly have. Healthy food and a well-balanced diet and a diverse diet for your dog. Again, clean water, that's all they need. Ample exercise, stimulation, that's it. Again, when people are like, who's your vet? Who's your vet? I don't have one. It's like when somebody says, who's your doctor? Who's your doctor? I don't have one. You don't want to have one, because then it becomes this back and forth of an argument about what you want your dog to have or not have, or what you want yourself to have or not have. And then it just becomes a battle of wits and a battle of knowledge, and one is more knowledgeable than the other. And a lot of these vets don't know what's in these shots. They just say, well, we've been told that this works, so we'll just push this on our patients or offer it as an option. Just do your own homework. Again, look this stuff up yourself. This is a very real thing. But it also, I should say this just in conclusion, it stretches into not just the lie of virology, but the lie of contagion. And it goes right back to that huge lie. How is it that a dog gets sick by being around other dogs? It's not because your dog that gets sick is not vaccinated. That's not why they become ill. They become ill because they are around poisoned dogs and other poisoned animals, just like human beings. Human beings get sick around other human beings because those other human beings are poisoned with God knows how many shots and a disrupted immune system and a number of other things. That's how the healthy person can become ill. They don't always, but they can be. So again, this isn't going to be good when it comes to animal statistics moving forward here. And until this entire corporate kill box apparatus of vaccination is completely eliminated, we can expect rather predictable results, I think. So just giving you a heads up on it. Again, it's on my X account and my Gab account as well. Feel free and check it out. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'll catch you on Wednesday. Thanks for listening. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.